Libby has been pardoned by President Trump. Libby was convicted in 2007 for lying to the FBI and obstruction of justice, including exposing the identity of covert CIA agent Valerie Plame to reporters.
This is a very bad idea. It sends a message that those who commit crimes against national security can be pardoned. And I don't think anyone in the executive position wants to do that. Look, this was an issue that has long been settled. George W. Bush declined to pardon Scooter Libby because he just felt that the jury had reached a fair verdict, and he pushed back hard against his vice president, Dick Cheney, who really pushed for this for part of his own partisan agenda.
Let's bring in Ellis Hennigan, author of Trump's America columnist for the Global Metro Papers, and Kenneth Del Vecchio, GOP strategist. Kenneth, I want to start with you and see if we can bring both the Comey and the Scooter Libby story together. If the president is so angry at James Comey for being a liar, why would the president then on the very same day pardon a convicted liar like Scooter Libby?
We have to put it all together like this. You know that guy way up there, if you believe in him, he's called God? That's who James Comey thinks that he is, not Donald Trump. James Comey positions himself in the way that he's of a higher loyalty. No. James Comey's loyalty is to his own hubris.
But why wasn't Scooter Libby loyal to the truth? He was convicted for lying to a federal grand jury. Why should somebody who lies to a federal grand jury, never mind in a book, why should that person get a pardon?
Donald Trump has all the evidence, as does his counsel in the Scooter Libby case. I've read the transcripts myself of that trial, and that was a politically motivated trial. When you want to prosecute somebody and you can't get him on real charges, you know what you charge him with? You charge him with this innocuous obstruction of justice.
Kenneth, I sat in that trial every day, and they made that argument, and the jury didn't buy it. But Ellis, how about it?
You know, I don't care about Scooter Libby. Honestly, it's ancient history. I let the historians sort it out. What I think is interesting about this is that Donald Trump is flexing his pardon muscles because he's going to be wanting to do a lot of pardoning in a hurry. And I think he wants to show that, look, I pardoned this guy from back in the Bush years, and now I've got about 8 people, my children, my recent aides, and God knows who else that he's ready to pardon. So I think that's the place to watch.
He should be pardoning people.
I understand. People
because no, these charges that have been filed against the few people out of this alleged Russian investigation of a collusion of an illegal type is a farce. What Comey started here, this was Comey's brain work. I'm not sure if the director of the FBI was directing himself or if his strings were being pulled by a bigger director, a.k.a. Barack Obama. But he started this. He was the genesis of this crazy, ridiculous, alleged collusion into interference in the United States elections by Russians. And Trump should be thinking about pardoning people. And why not start with somebody who was wrongfully convicted under an obstruction charge and lying to FBI agents?
Let's talk about Comey's book. You all read some of the highlights that were published today.
Sure.
Your thoughts about it. Why is Comey doing it?
Well, I think he wants to tell his story. I mean, he's been attacked for months in the most vicious terms imaginable, including today being called, what was it, a lying slime ball. I think he wants to set the record straight. He wants to defend himself from the onslaught. And I think, honestly, that he's a guy who, across a long career, is he's working hard for his country. He's trying to do right. And he's facing excuse me if I could finish. Sure. He's facing these very powerful forces. Listen, he ought to write a book. He ought to tell his story.
Yeah, he ought to go out there and make big bucks. I'm the author of probably the best-selling criminal law books in the country. So I want to look at this from a legal perspective. This guy wants to look at things as a politician, because that's really what James Comey is. He's a politician. He thought that he could pull the strings politically on the presidential election. First, it was all about...
He did. He gave it to Donald Trump with that stuff about Hillary Clinton just before the election.
I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you this, David. Certainly days before the election, coming out and saying that, hey, we're investigating Hillary Clinton again, sure was a boon for Donald Trump, but he was going to win anyway. But he did the same thing months earlier when he said, we're not investigating her. Now, who do you think told him to do this? Who had the most to gain? Barack Obama. Think about it. The director of the FBI doesn't go out and make proclamations about that I'm investigating the Democrat candidate for president a couple days before the election.
Well, then those people who are tried in the Russia investigation, they can call Barack Obama as a witness and see if they can prove their case.
They can call the whole deep state if they want to. Listen, in the end, we have two competing versions of the truth, right? Donald Trump has a version and Jim Comey has a version, right? And so we have to ask, which of these guys, based on the evidence we've seen, based on the character that they have displayed, which one do you think is telling the truth? Based on the contemporary...
Donald Trump.
I understand you believe that. You'll believe that no matter what happens. But I think most Americans look at the evidence and the character of these two people. They're going to stand with.
No, I look at justice. I look at the evidence. I evaluate and weigh things under the totality of the circumstances. And I want to go back to Barack Obama for 1 second. I want somebody to refute me on this. Barack Obama stood everything to lose with Hillary Clinton becoming president. The Obamas don't like the Clintons. Clinton becomes president, Obamacare goes down, Obama gets blamed for it.
Do you think that Obama had his thumb on the scale for Donald Trump?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Because because the Obamas remain the head of the party instead of the Clintons.
Whoa.
This is logical. This is logic, not conspiracy theory. Who's the head of the party now? The Obamas. They still are. The Clintons would have retaken it if she was elected.
Bernie Sanders. Alice, what about the argument, though, that James Comey has not done himself any favors in a legal setting if he's called to testify either in a trial or in impeachment proceedings because he has gone out there and written a book where he comments on the president's hands?
It's only a problem if you lie and you contradict yourself. There's no problem expressing yourself in public as long as you continue to hold to the truth as best you know. And I have total confidence that this guy, even when he's called, is going to be able to be a very, very powerful witness. He knows a lot of stuff. He's got contemporaneous notes. He has a lifetime of credibility as a top law enforcement official in this country. And I got to tell you, stacked up against the credibility that Donald Trump has shown, I'm betting on that.
What do you think about this style? Think about the president's hands, hair.
I think, you know what?
Wait, hold on a second. This is all political. Let's go to some facts. James Comey went under oath in front of the Senate in May 2017 and said, I wasn't thinking about how me as the FBI director and making decisions about talking about investigations would affect the election. Yet in his book, he put a whole paragraph about how he was self-aware that if he came out and said, I'm going to investigate Hillary Clinton a couple of days before the election, it could change the course. And he thought that it was his job.
Exactly what he said in the book. But we'll leave it right there. Ellis Henneken, a columnist for Trump America, columnist for Global Metro newspapers, and Kenneth Del Vecchio, Republican strategist. Wonderfully spirited debate. Good to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.